They just sued good old California Governor Gavin Newsom and his state over gerrymandering and his plan, calling it an illicit power grab. Meanwhile, the DOJ is making very serious progress with their investigation into Biden's weaponization of justice. Apparently, even former Speaker McCarthy's phone records were targeted by Jack Smith, and it's growing by the day. Also developing tonight, a new criminal referral against Mr. Fang Fang himself, Eric Swalwell. Imagine that. Over what? Another possible mortgage fraud issue. And Attorney General Pam Bondi is exploring hate crime charges against those violent anti-free speech writers at UC Berkeley. Finally, a chilling incident in the state of New Jersey. A person of interest is now wanted for questioning after this individual attempted to confront U.S. Attorney Alina Habba at her office with a baseball bat before destroying property and fleeing the scene. All right, here with more, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. So great to see you.
Great to see you,
I appreciate. I know your days are busy. I know you're working, 40-hour days, and it seems like everybody in the administration is.
We can't keep up with the president. We're all trying to keep up with Donald Trump, which is a wonderful thing.
Okay, I got to start in the United Socialist Utopia of California.
All right, so here's what everyone's missing while they're busy arguing about whether the Epstein files even exist. Pam Bondi just got handed the hottest potato in Washington. And yeah, Trump literally just signed a law forcing her to release those files within 30 days. But here's the kicker. The same law that's supposed to give us transparency, it's got loopholes you could drive a truck through. And right now, both Republicans and Democrats are screaming at Bondi, saying she better not pull another cover-up like she did last time. Can you believe this? We're talking about the Jeffrey Epstein files, the documents that could name some of the most powerful people on the planet, and the person in charge of releasing them is Trump's own Attorney General, the same Trump who used to hang out with Epstein back in the day, the same Trump who's now demanding that Bondi dig into Epstein's ties to Democrats while conveniently ignoring his own connections. Come on, you can't make this stuff up. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Okay, so he wanted to change the rules. They had a commission that would appoint and gerrymander. Tell us about this lawsuit.
It wasn't even illicit. They are flat out publicizing what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it. They're trying to create seats based on race, and they can't do it. And we're going to hold them accountable just like any other state. I mean, they've very publicly said, Sean, what they're trying to do, and it's illegal gerrymandering. They cannot do it. So, yeah, we sued them today. We're going to continue suing California until they start complying with the laws of our country, whether it's sanctuary cities, the Second Amendment. We're winning in the Supreme Court.
National Guard.
Our ICE, that's exactly right, that the National Guard and ICE can be in California to actually protect the citizens of California. Let's see what else. Illegal emissions from trucks. And look what Sean Duffy did today. Look what he found with all the truckers who were given illegal licenses, truck driving licenses in California. It's constant with that state.
We saw what happened in Florida.
Right.
I mean, guy couldn't speak English, couldn't read road signs, had a license in Washington State and in California. Sanctuary state status protection allowed.
So Trump signs this bill. It's called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Sounds great, right? Maximum transparency. The public finally gets to see what the Justice Department's been hiding all these years. Except, and there's always an except, the bill lets DOJ hide anything that might jeopardize an active investigation or expose certain third parties, and experts are already saying that loophole is big enough to redact basically whatever they want. Here's what's really wild. Bondi held a press conference on November 19th, and she stood there talking about how they've already released over 33,000 Epstein documents to Congress. 33,000? But when reporters asked her exactly how much of the new stuff would actually be public, she wouldn't answer. She just kept saying maximum transparency like it's some kind of magic phrase that makes the questions go away. Yeah, right. And it gets better. Lawmakers from both sides, I'm talking Republicans and Democrats, are absolutely hammering her. Repping Anna Paulina Luna went after her on social media. Democrats are warning she might be protecting people on the list. Everyone remembers what happened last time when Bondi supposedly released Epstein documents, and it turned out to be a whole lot of nothing. Just redacted pages and information we basically already knew. People are furious, and they're telling Bondi, don't you dare do that again. But here's the thing that should terrify you. We already know from previous releases and contact books that Trump's name shows up in Epstein's orbit. So does Bill Clinton. So do a bunch of other elites. None of them have been charged with anything, but their names are there. And now Trump's DOJ gets to decide which additional names come out and which ones quietly disappear behind those convenient legal loopholes. Think about the timing here. Trump campaigned on draining the swamp, on exposing corruption, on releasing these files, and now he's president again. He signs a law that supposedly forces transparency, but that same law gives his own attorney general the power to hide whatever she wants as long as she says it's for an active investigation. Do you see what's happening? This could be the biggest selective leak operation in history. Release the names that hurt your enemies, protect the names of your friends, and call it transparency. This is exactly the kind of two-tier justice system that drives people insane. Regular people get thrown in prison for way less than what we're talking about here. But the elites, they get special protection, they get lawyers and loopholes, and attorney generals who hold press conferences talking about maximum transparency while refusing to actually commit to anything specific. And the craziest part, the files are supposed to drop within 30 days. 30 days. That means by mid-December, we're either going to see the biggest political earthquake in modern history, or we're going to see the biggest cover-up. There's no middle ground here. Either Bondi releases everything and names start flying, or she uses those loopholes to black out the important stuff, and everyone's going to scream conspiracy. So yeah, Pam Bondi is under more pressure right now than probably anyone else in Washington. Trump's pushing her to go after Democrats. Republicans are warning her not to hide anything. Democrats are accusing her of protecting Trump's friends. The media is circling like sharks, and she's got 30 days to decide how much of the truth the American people actually get to see. This is wild. This is the story everyone should be watching, because whatever happens next is going to define how much we can trust our government to actually expose its own corruption. Like, this is the moment where we find out if any of this transparency talk is real or if it's all just smoke and mirrors designed to protect the people at the top. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's talk about what's actually in these files and why everyone's losing their minds over them. Because if you're just hearing about this now, you might be thinking, haven't we already seen Epstein documents? Didn't they release stuff years ago? And yeah, technically some things have come out, but what we're talking about here is completely different. The Justice Department has been sitting on thousands of pages of Epstein-related records for years. We're talking emails, flight logs, witness statements, financial records, basically everything the FBI and DOJ collected during their investigations into Epstein and his network. And most of it has never been made public. Some of it went to Congress behind closed doors. Some of it got released in tiny batches with huge redactions. But the full picture, the complete files, nobody outside of a small circle of officials has ever seen them. And that's what this new law is supposed to change. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, which just got signed by Trump, orders the Justice Department to create a searchable online database with all unclassified Epstein-related records within 30 days. Sounds amazing, right? Finally, total transparency. We'll be able to see everything, who was involved, who knew what, who looked the other way. Except here's where it gets tricky. The law has exceptions, big ones. It says DOJ can withhold information if releasing it would jeopardize an active federal investigation. It also lets them protect victims and certain third parties. And on the surface, okay, that makes sense. You don't want to blow an ongoing investigation. You don't want to re-traumatize victims by putting their names out there. Those are reasonable concerns. But come on, you know exactly how this is going to be abused. Any name the DOJ wants to protect, just say it's part of an active investigation. Any connection they want to hide, claim it involves a third party who deserves privacy. These exceptions are vague enough that Bondi and her team could redact half the files and technically still be following the law. And that's exactly what critics are afraid of. Let me give you some context here. Back in February, there was already massive pressure on Bondi to release an Epstein client list. Lawmakers were demanding it. The public was demanding it. And Bondi came out and said there's no such thing as a client list. She said the documents they had were already being shared with congressional investigators and that they were committed to transparency. But when those documents finally got released, people were furious. It was mostly stuff we already knew. Redacted pages, nothing explosive, nothing that actually named new names or revealed new connections. Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, who's a Republican by the way, absolutely blasted Bondi on social media, she basically said the release was a joke and demanded real answers. Democrats piled on too, saying Bondi was clearly protecting powerful people. And now here we are months later, and Bondi is facing the exact same pressure all over again. Only this time, there's a law with the 30-day deadline, so she can't stall forever. Here's what makes this even more complicated. Trump himself has been all over the map on this issue. On one hand, he's publicly said he wants the Epstein files released. He's pushed Bondi to investigate Epstein's ties to prominent Democrats. He's tried to position himself as the guy who's finally going to expose all the corruption. But on the other hand, Trump's own name appears in Epstein's contact books. There are photos of them together at parties. Trump's made comments in the past praising Epstein as a terrific guy. So it's not like Trump has zero connection to this whole mess. And that's where the conspiracy theories start flying. Critics say Trump's playing both sides. Release enough to hurt Democrats and political enemies, but use those legal loopholes to protect himself and his allies. Control the narrative by deciding which names become public and which ones stay buried. It's information warfare disguised as transparency. And honestly, can you blame people for being suspicious when the guy who appears in the files is the same guy whose attorney general decides what gets released? Yeah, that's a conflict of interest. Now, let's be clear about what we actually know versus what's speculation. From previous unsealed records and civil cases, we know that Trump and Bill Clinton both show up in Epstein's orbit. We know Prince Andrew was close with Epstein. We know there were tons of powerful businessmen, politicians, academics, and celebrities in Epstein's social circle. But, and this is important, being in someone's social circle doesn't mean you were involved in their crimes. Trump's never been charged with anything related to Epstein. Neither has Clinton. Most of the names we've seen so far are people who knew Epstein socially, not people who've been accused of participating in his sex trafficking operation. But that's exactly why these files matter so much. Maybe there's nothing there. Maybe all these powerful people really were just acquaintances who had no idea what Epstein was doing. Or maybe, just maybe, the files contain evidence of who knew what and when. Maybe there are emails showing people ignored warning signs. Maybe there are witness statements implicating specific individuals. Maybe there's financial evidence showing who benefited from Epstein's network. We don't know because we haven't seen the files, and that's what's driving everyone crazy. The not knowing, the uncertainty, the feeling that powerful people might be getting away with something because they have the right connections. This isn't even really about Trump or Clinton or any specific person at this point. It's about whether our justice system is willing to expose the truth when that truth involves the elite class. Think about it like this. If you or I got caught up in a sex trafficking investigation, our names would be plastered everywhere. Our lives would be destroyed before we even got charged with anything. The media would be camped outside our houses. We'd lose our jobs. Our reputations would be ruined instantly. But when it's billionaires and presidents and princes, suddenly there are privacy concerns. Suddenly there are active investigations that might be jeopardized. Suddenly there are reasons why the public can't know everything. That double standard, that's what's fueling all the anger. People are sick of watching elites play by different rules. And Bondi standing up at a press conference talking about maximum transparency while refusing to commit to actually releasing everything, that just makes it worse. It confirms everyone's suspicions that the fix is in, that the powerful take care of their own, that we're never going to get the full truth. And here's another angle that's not getting enough attention. This whole situation is happening during a time when public trust in institutions is already at an all-time low. People don't trust the media. They don't trust politicians. They don't trust the Justice Department. So when Bondi says trust us, we're being transparent. Half the country immediately assumes she's lying. That's where we are as a society right now. The credibility is just gone. So now we wait. 30 days. That's the clock. By mid-December, the DOJ is supposed to have this database online. And what we see, or don't see, is going to tell us everything we need to know about whether this administration is serious about transparency, or whether this whole thing is just political theater designed to control the narrative and protect the right people. The stakes couldn't be higher, and everyone knows it. All right, let's break this down into what actually matters and what you need to understand about where this is heading. Because there are really three big pieces to this story, and they all connect to show you exactly why this is such a powder keg right now. First, you've got the political theater aspect. Trump signs a bill that he's calling total transparency. He's taking credit for finally forcing these files to be released. His supporters are cheering because he's supposedly exposing the swamp. But then you look at the details, and the bill gives his own attorney general massive discretion to hide whatever she wants. So is this real transparency, or is it just good PR? That's the question. And the answer probably depends on what actually gets released. If Bondi dumps everything, I'm talking names, emails, connections, financial records, all of it, then yeah, Trump can legitimately claim he delivered on his promise. But if the database shows up with half the pages blacked out, and all the juicy details hidden behind active investigation claims, then this whole thing was a show. It was a way to look like you're doing something while actually protecting the people you want to protect. And here's the thing. We won't know which version we're getting until the files actually drop. Bondi's not tipping her hand. She's giving these vague answers about following the law and maximum transparency, but she won't commit to specifics. That tells you she's keeping her options open. She's waiting to see how much heat she takes, how much pressure builds, and then she'll make her move. That's not transparency. That's politics. That's calculated strategy designed to minimize damage while maximizing the appearance of cooperation. Second piece, you've got the bipartisan pressure. And this is actually pretty remarkable because you don't see Republicans and Democrats agreeing on much these days. But both sides are hammering Bondi on this. Republicans like Anna Paulina Luna are demanding she release everything because they want to see which Democrats were connected to Epstein. Democrats are demanding she release everything because they think she's protecting Trump and his allies. Everyone wants transparency. They just assume the bad guys are on the other team. But that pressure is real, and it matters. If Bondi tries to do another nothing burger release, like she did back in February, she's going to get destroyed from all sides. The media will crucify her. Congress will hold hearings. The public will lose whatever remaining trust they have in the Justice Department. So she's in this impossible position where she either has to release information that's going to hurt powerful people in both parties, or she has to weather a firestorm of accusations that she's covering things up. My guess, she's going to thread the needle, release enough to make it look substantial, include some names that generate headlines, maybe throw in a few mid-level people who can take the fall, but use those legal exceptions to keep the really damaging stuff hidden. That's the play that keeps everyone sort of unhappy, but not angry enough to really blow things up. Is that real transparency? No, but it's the politically safe move. It's the move that lets her say she followed the law while still protecting the people who matter most to the administration. Third piece, and this is the one that should worry you the most, you've got the precedent this sets for future cases. If the DOJ can sit on files about elite criminals for years and then only release what's politically convenient when they finally get forced to, what does that say about equal justice under the law? What does that say about whether the powerful actually face consequences? Because here's what people don't get. The Epstein case isn't just about Epstein. It's about a system that allowed him to operate for decades. It's about the people who knew and did nothing. It's about the institutions that looked the other way because he was rich and connected. And if those people and institutions never get exposed, if the files stay hidden or redacted forever, then nothing changes. The same system that protected Epstein continues protecting whoever comes next. That's why this matters so much. It's not about satisfying curiosity or feeding conspiracy theories. It's about accountability. It's about showing that even the most powerful people have to answer for their actions. And right now, we're about to find out if that's true or if it's just something we tell ourselves to feel better about how our society works. So what happens next? Well, the clock's ticking. 30 days means mid-December. That's right before the holidays. Which, yeah, convenient timing to bury bad news. Release controversial information right when everyone's focused on Christmas shopping and family gatherings. Classic move, but the database is supposed to go online, and people are going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Every redaction, every missing page, every vague exception claim, it's all going to get scrutinized. And depending on what we see, this either becomes the story that finally exposes the rot at the heart of elite power, or it becomes another example of how the powerful protect their own while pretending to care about justice. There's no middle ground here. Either the truth comes out or it doesn't. My prediction, we're going to get something in between. Enough to generate headlines and make people think progress was made, but not enough to actually shake the foundations of power. Some lower level names, some embarrassing, but not criminal connections, maybe a few people who are already dead or already disgraced. But the really damaging stuff, the evidence that could actually bring down major figures, that's going to stay hidden behind those active investigation claims, and Bondi will stand there saying she followed the law and provided maximum transparency, and half the country will believe her while the other half screams cover up. But here's the thing, even that outcome tells you everything you need to know about how the system works. The fact that we're even having this debate, the fact that there's any question about whether powerful people will be held accountable, the fact that the person in charge of releasing the files is directly appointed by someone who appears in those files, that's the story. That's the reality of American justice in 2025. And you know what else? This whole situation is a perfect example of how information gets weaponized in modern politics. It's not about truth anymore. It's about controlling the narrative. It's about releasing just enough to hurt your enemies while protecting your friends. It's about using transparency as a shield while actually maintaining secrecy where it counts. This is the game, and Bondi's right in the middle of it. So keep your eyes on mid-December. Watch what gets released and what gets redacted. Watch who the media focuses on and who they ignore. Watch how Trump and Bondi spin whatever comes out. Because this isn't just about Jeffrey Epstein anymore. This is about whether we live in a country with one justice system or two. And we're about to get our answer. The Epstein files have become this symbol, this test case for whether anyone in power is actually serious about accountability. And if this release turns into another cover-up, if it's just more redacted pages and protected names, then people are going to lose whatever faith they had left. And that's dangerous. That's how you create a society where nobody trusts anything, where every official statement is assumed to be a lie, where conspiracy theories flourish because the official story is so obviously incomplete. Stay tuned, because this story is just getting started, and the next 30 days are going to be absolutely insane. This is the kind of thing that could define Trump's second term. Either he delivers on transparency and lets the chips fall where they may, or he protects the elite class and proves that drain the swamp was always just a slogan. We're about to find out which version we're living in.